Okay. All right, everyone.
Well, thanks for coming to our second online step up class. We're pretty excited to go over a lot of the stuff that we did last week, keep building on our program, and kind of do some recap of things just so that anybody that's new to the program can get caught up.
So we'll spend the first half recapping what we did last week. And before we get too deep into anything as far as the recap goes, we'd like to, at our intro part today, we want to get some feedback from the people who were here live, kind of see what you guys liked about the last meeting and some things that you might want to work on or see us, the main thing is to find out what we can do so that you guys are getting out of this, what you might like to. So if there's things that we can work on, it's something we always like to do to know what your interests are. And then we want to go to the virtual people after we talk to the people here, kind of have everyone who's here introduce themselves. And if you did see the last program, let us know what your thoughts were on that. And if not, kind of tell us what you might be looking to get out of the experience, whether you're below the knee, above the knee type of amputation you've had, and how long you may have been an amputee. So
I suppose the same thing stands for anybody that's here. If you weren't here last time, go ahead and just kind of share with us what you want to get out of it. So if you just kind of give a brief introduction and say,
okay, I'm Dave Laddie. Since 17, been a amputee, and I don't know, I've been coming to these since then. So I always learn something new, different, or pick up something to work on a little bit. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say. But that's what it is.
Great. Yeah.
Camaraderie. Pick up new kind of stuff. So.
I'm Julie. I've only lost my leg about a year ago, so this is newer to me. I was here last month, and I thought it was excellent. I was so happy that I came and learned some new exercises, and I found myself doing them actually at home, so that was a plus. And I feel like it helps me walk better already. So, yeah, I just like to make friends, be here, and learn new things.
all right.
Hi, I'm Steve. I've been an amputee since October of 19. I've been seeing Nate just about ever since, and I just came to see what his program's about and to meet some new people and go from there.
Chris, I've been an amputee since 1986, above knee from motorcycle accident, and I'm here to help and give support to people that haven't been an amputee as long as me.
I'm Ben. I've been an amputee for going on about 6 years, and just looking to learn more and be able to get back a little bit of what I've lost from before my amputation.
Okay.
I'm Dave, and I've been on amputee about 8 months, and I'm here just to see what I can learn. And I know that them guys on the stand over there will teach me some stuff while I'm here.
all right, well, thank you guys all. If we could have the people who are joining us online, if you could maybe turn your cameras on, you're all being broadcast here to our screen here. So it helps us to kind of, if you want to turn it back off after you make your introduction, that'd be just fine. But just kind of turn it on and we'll cycle through and have you make a brief introduction. If you can just kind of say who you are, where you're coming from online, what level your amputation is, and just how long you've been an amputee and why you decided to tune in today.
So do you guys have to cue which people to? Jerry? Oh, sure, yeah.
Hey, go. What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Sure can, Jerry.
Hey, I'm Jerry. I'm 10 years left below knee amputee due to a motorcycle accident. And I'm just here to learn what I can and to meet a bunch of new people.
Great. Well,
Howdy.
Thanks for joining us.
And I'm in Connecticut, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah, part of our outreach and going virtual, we found more and more people, you mentioned meeting other people here mentioned meeting other people. We, a big part of our program is the peer mentoring. So, and what we're trying to do here is when we have people who join us virtually, you know, amputees are less than 1% of the population. So anytime there's an opportunity, we can reach out to more people and kind of share our experiences. So thank you for joining us online. And that as we get to the end, please let us know your thoughts on our program.
Yeah, I'm also a mentor through the Amputee Coalition.
Oh, great.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Oh, John.
John.
Hi, say hey guys.
Hi, John.
I'm John. I'm not actually an amputee. I'm a certified prosthetist, and Julia's here as well. She's currently a resident, and we're here just to learn more about how we can help our patients with some gait training exercises and things like that. And we also have our 2 three-legged dogs hanging out here.
Oh, nice. Where are you from?
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Kalamazoo. Okay. And how
Yep.
did you hear about us?
I'm actually good friends with Abby, one of the practitioners at Bremer.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
So, and just so if there's any other therapists who are watching now or who might see us later, we encourage physical therapists to join us.
Right. Other
please.
prosthetists, any
Yeah,
medical
any other
professionals. I
prosthet-
mean, this is an open program, right?
Yeah, and we think the idea here is outreach. So
Right.
the more we can do as professionals to help, that's just as important as the people we're trying to reach out to. So thanks for joining us today.
Yep.
Harry.
Harry, could you make a brief introduction? Can you hear us?
I don't know. Is he on?
Okay, can you hear me?
We got you
Yep,
now.
we can
That's
hear you
great.
now.
Okay,
yes.
hey, my name's Harry. I live in West Michigan, and I am 6 weeks after surgery. In fact, I got my prosthesis about an hour and a half ago. So
Okay.
I've used it for a total of about an hour. So I'm brand new, and I'm just here to learn.
All right.
Great.
I'm sure there's a lot of people here. What if you stick around to the end? And I mentioned how we want to bring the virtual people in for the peer mentoring. I'm sure a lot of people here or on the online community will have a lot of advice for you. I mean, you're just getting started in the process. I'm an amputee myself. I don't know if you know that, but a lot of what you're going to experience over the next few months is adapting to the prosthesis and how it's going to work and some of the inconsistencies with the fit and how to address those with socks. So thanks for joining us, but I'm sure there's a lot of people here who are going to be anxious to talk to you. And
Thank you. Look forward to it.
We're going to take a break midway too. So while we're interacting here, I know that Abby is going to go with the online virtual people so that you guys will be able to speak amongst yourselves as well. So, all
Yeah,
right.
thanks for coming. Yep, Letitia.
Letitia. Letitia, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hi, how you doing?
good and you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I would say I'm not sure if you were on when we kind of made our brief introduction.
Oh,
But what we're doing right now is we're just kind of going through and letting everyone introduce themselves, kind of talking a little bit about your amputation, where you're from, and maybe mentioning what made you decide to tune in today.
Okay, I'm from Jeffersonville, Indiana. Um, just became an amputee on Valentine's Day. It was unexpected, so I'm just trying to learn some things to see how it goes.
well, excellent. As I was just saying to Harry, for newer amputees, there's a lot of people who are here to share their experiences, and we hope that you will get plenty of opportunity to talk to other people. Have you been fit with your first prosthetic limb yet or your preparatory prosthesis?
I will be doing that on Tuesday of next
Okay.
week. I start with my shrinker.
Okay, great,
Okay.
great.
Well, and bear with us because what we're getting from the virtual people that have joined us is they're here for the interaction. So
Right.
we are going to try to do as much as we can to make sure you're interacting with our group as well as each other. But at the end, we really want feedback from everyone because we're reaching out to the virtual community to try to expand our group, and any advice, either positive or negative, please let us know because this is going to evolve. This is new to us. This is our second time doing this program. but we're going to rely on feedback from you guys to make things better every month when we meet. So thank you for joining us.
And then Dana, if you're online, if you can hear us, could you please unmute yourself? And give
Hi,
us
I
some
can hear you.
introduction? Great.
Hey, Dana.
Hi. Forgive me because my kids just got home, so it might be a little loud. So I'm Dana. I live in Birch Run, Michigan, and I've been an amputee since September of 2021. I was in a really bad car accident in June 2021 and made the decision voluntarily to get an amputation. I think it'll be better for my quality of life in the end. And I had my prosthesis in December, was doing pretty well with it, and then I got an infection in January. So I'm actually going to be back to you guys on Monday, next Monday, to get my socket refit and hopefully be up and walking again shortly.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to working with you next week too. So
Definitely,
thanks for
I can't wait.
joining us.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'll be able to really do because I got to make dinner and stuff like that. So I'm kind of here to listen and just kind of watch.
Yeah, well,
great.
Yeah, that's great.
And a lot of what, I mean, for those of you who are, brand new to your prosthesis or, don't have your prosthesis yet or can't use it, a lot of these things, it may not be as interactive for you, but you can still kind of see what goes into the idea of how what tools you need in order to maximize your potential on a prosthesis. So hopefully you can still get a lot out of the program, even if you're not able to kind of participate through the exercises today. And then once you have your prosthesis and you're up and moving, you can come back and join in.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and get started with our exercises. We're going to go pretty quickly through the first half of things. A lot of it's going to be kind of a recap of the things that we did last week, just to touch on those. Now, anybody who didn't see last week's or last month's program, it is available online. So you can go back to the library and you can watch kind of the more in-depth explanation of how and why we do some of the exercises we're doing over the recap. And we'll break down the second half things a little bit more in depth about why we're doing them. So I lost my my demonstrator up here. But if we can go ahead and get our volunteers to kind of cycle around. And
did you want to do the tapping to demonstrate? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I was going to demonstrate it. Yep, exactly. No, just me. Okay. So what we're going to start with is just a kind of we're going to just recap kind of what we did last time. You want to switch sides? Your prosthesis is in front. Will that make it easier to see?
That might be. My left side is my prosthetic side.
Right. So we're trying to put this front and center.
Even though
right?
I have pants on. You can see the crease in my pants.
So what we're going to start with, the first exercises that we do are all about identifying your control points inside the socket and what muscles you can use to make those contractions to control and to maybe make the idea of controlling your heel, your toe, all those things a little less abstract. So instead of thinking about what's happening down at the foot, you're able to think about what you can feel inside the socket and how that translates into control of the foot.
So the muscles that we have inside of the prosthetic socket, we can still fire those muscles for our balance. And as we use and contract those, we talked about last week how those work in unison with other muscles in our core and things like that to help stabilize that. So even though the foot itself is not there, the muscles are there. And a lot of times, I've been an amputee for 27 years. We always talk about strength training. When Nate and I started touring, going to some seminars in different parts of the country, and we were working with some different people. The newer thing in therapy over the last 7-8 years is they're talking about how quickly you contract those muscles inside of the socket. So instead of just having strong muscles, we want to get you to, the purpose is to identify the muscle groups, so then we can do exercises where we focus on the speed of the contraction inside of the socket. And we seem to get some pretty good feedback from people last week that they really did feel that. I know you always told the story about seeing me get tired and fatigued. So, but anyway, this is a recap. We will be posting the last clinic that we did online. That'll be available here, if not by the end of the day today, tomorrow, right, Brianna? So that people can go back and revisit that. So Nate will show kind of how we're starting out to identify the muscle groups and then the exercises to use them.
So this is something, if you're at home, you probably won't be able to participate with this right now today, but I do really suggest you grab a partner, you grab a friend, someone, and just go through this exercise, because I've yet to meet anybody that I've done this with that didn't have it be kind of like an aha moment for them, where it's something clicked inside their head that this really helped them make big strides in their control of their prosthesis. So what we do is we take a small reflex hammer or a ball peen hammer, or I have a socket wrench here.
First, we have a ball here that's, and so it's important that you're using, we want to squeeze the ball together because it's that tension here. It helps us feel the muscles inside of the socket that we're going to be working to identify when Nate does the test.
Yep. The other thing that's important is Scott's position. His knees are as close to 90 degrees as possible. He's trying to sit himself upright in the chair, so he's not slouched over. He has his core engaged. These are important techniques because they help to kind of.
Yeah. If you're slouched in the chair with your foot out like that, you're probably not going to feel.
You probably won't feel the reverberations in the socket the same way. So what we do is we just go through and we strike the heel of the prosthetic foot. That's going to give a distinct vibration inside of Scott's prosthesis that we're going to tell him to associate with the heel. So when I tell Scott heel, this is the feeling that I want him to recreate inside the socket. We do the same thing at the little toe. And we do the same thing at the big toe. Now, Scott's been doing this for a few years, so we're not going to go through the whole demonstration. But if you were someone new, after you've done this maybe 3 or 4 times, gotten a feel for it, I'd have Scott close his eyes and I'd say, I would hit an
So
area.
you tap, and then I could say, I feel that at the heel or the posterior aspect of the socket.
So that's at the little toe.
Okay.
That's
little
okay.
toe, yeah.
That's all right. We didn't
No,
go,
that-
but
you
that's
got it.
okay. I mean, this is that these shows somebody that's even done this for a long time. It is about making those connections
Right.
and about
We're trying to identify the sensations and associate with them for the exercises we're doing moving forward.
and I didn't go through and train that. That's why I would say 3 or 4 times of telling him heel, little toe, big toe, making those repetitions so that the pathway is a little more clear.
The little toe,
This is big toe.
big toe,
So big toe, heel,
heel,
heel, big toe, little toe,
little toe,
little toe,
little toe,
big toe,
big toe.
heel.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's going to be difficult to do by
So
yourself.
the question is, what if you're at home and you didn't have a partner with you? And I mean, the answer is that's going to be a difficult thing to do by yourself. I really suggest you make a plan in a time where, you know, if you have a friend or a relative that would be willing to assist you, that you'd kind of grab them and make a plan to do this.
The next set of exercises are pretty helpful for identifying the muscle groups.
Yes.
If you can't do
Right.
the sensory test here, so that'll
Right.
be a starting
Right.
point.
So we have met people that maybe they have some neuropathy or some nerve damage or things like that. So they're not able to discern the different areas. And that's okay. Because the next thing that we're going to do is after identifying those muscles in the socket, what we're going to go through and do is we're going to do some targeted contractions in these areas. And Scott tells me that I like to tell this story because this is one of the things that I've worked out with Scott extensively. I mean, we've run triathlons. I mean, we've done all this stuff. And I don't know if I've ever seen him sweat as hard as he did the first time I saw him do this exercise right here.
Yep.
Which is just, so he still has the ball. He's still in the same posture in the chair. And this is where all of you guys can start joining in here. All of you that have done this before. Abby, do you want to, because I don't know if Steve has done this before, if you want to. Yep.
And the day that Nate and I attended this seminar was actually 2015. So I had been an amputee for 21 years. And people would
Right.
always say, okay, you're pretty active. You get around, my patients would say, I'd say, what do you want out of this experience? They say, I want to walk like you. But, and this is where I really started, and I changed my language when we started talking about the speed of the contraction.
Right.
Because where Nate said, I was always a pretty strong guy, but when we were doing these exercises that day, where I was focusing just on how fast I was contracting the muscles in the socket, I was really feeling it.
You were
Like you said,
fatigued. You
yeah,
were
I was,
fatigued.
yes, I had muscle fatigue, but later on, I was able to use that really for my balance and doing a lot of different other exercises where I had ended up gaining so much that I didn't really think I could gain at that.
Right.
Like I said, 21 years post-op, I didn't expect to be, making a lot of gains. I was going to these seminars more for my patients, not expecting to get so much out of it myself.
So this exercise, we're still looking at the same quadrants in the socket. We're still looking at heel or the back of the socket. So if you're not able to put this together by the feeling of the heel, I can say back.
wall. Yep.
I can say outside, inside, front, inside, outside. I said that wrong, but
That's fine.
but the idea is that what Scott's doing is he's not, you don't see a whole lot of movement. He's not moving his prosthesis through space. His knee is staying pretty still. Everything that's happening is happening between his limb and the socket. And he's really creating these muscle contractions.
So I'm pushing the socket wall towards the hand or the direction that he's asking me to go, but I'm not doing it by pushing with my quad. I'm doing it by using the muscles that I'm firing inside of the prosthetic socket to make it go that direction.
Right. So he's not moving at his hip. His hip is staying still.
I'm not going like this.
Right.
I'm doing it all with my limb.
All with his limb inside the socket. So outside, inside, front, back, inside, outside, front, back, inside, outside. Now, what we're going to do is, as we continue to do these exercises, we're going to increase the speed. So we're going to start slow, really let him catch up and get an idea of what the exercise is. And then we're going to start to push the pace a little bit, because we are trying to recruit a different type of muscle fiber inside your limb that is more meant for quick twitch contractions.
So I would say at this point, if you don't have a partner, you can do these guys. If you have the ball, just put your hand on your socket. Maybe if everyone wants to try that, and push that direction, go to the back, go to the side, go to the inside, and gradually increase the speed. But if you can get a partner in attending these in the future, there's a couple things that are going on when Nate's doing this for me. There's the element of, I don't know which way he's going.
Right.
And as he talked about, so I can't anticipate where the next direction is going to go. That does intensify the workout, but also he's going to start out slower and then increase that speed. And it's really the speed of the contractures as you get better at it that will really get your muscles working there.
So this works both at the below the knee and the above the knee level. Likely if for someone that's above the knee, as I touch I'm still going to do all of my touch points as the director underneath the knee joint. But what's going to happen is the person is going to be moving their leg. When I touch the front, they're going to be moving at their hip, and they're going to be moving their limb upwards inside the socket. Yep. When I touch the back, they're going to be driving toward the chair with their limb. So it'd be those same things. And this should translate to the areas that you felt the vibrations.
Which is why you're using the ball, because these muscles are engaged here. So when you're firing these muscles, if you're below the knee, you're feeling it here. And if you don't have the muscles down here, then you've got these muscles engaged, and we're gonna
in place. You can't really push to the outside of the socket.
It's more about making a muscle contraction. So what he's saying is that for an above the knee, it's hard to squeeze the ball as you move to the outside wall of the socket, and it is hard. But what you want to focus on is keeping that squeeze and just making a muscle contraction to push out. So it'll be a very small movement. It'll be a really, really small movement. And even for below the knee, this should be a small movement. This isn't a big thing. You don't, I mean, that's the thing. That's why it's always so remarkable to me that Scott was sweating so bad, because I'm an observer and I'm sitting here like, the dude's not even moving. He's just sitting still, but he was making so much action happen inside of his prosthesis because he's a pretty competitive guy. And when he found out he wasn't doing it, he wanted to catch up real fast, didn't you?
Well, I had Lauren almost knock me down before that too, but that's another story for another day.
So we want to go through these walls of the socket. We want to go through those about 10 times in each direction. So if you can kind of keep going, keep cycling through.
Maybe we should have Chris up next.
Yeah.
after.
And then actually, yeah. It may have not been.
I mean, we did several exercises. It was a compilation.
It wasn't just this exercise. It was there were some other ones that were involved, but they were all.
Yeah.
They were all. He didn't get out of the chair. He was sitting in the chair by the time by the time he was sweating. And
well, what it was I was using muscles that I found out I hadn't been using when I was walking on the prosthesis.
And that's the point that I wanted to, that I keep trying to make, is that it wasn't so much that it's that he hadn't been trained in this. So this is a brand new thing. This is like his very, very first time of ever trying to do this. So those muscles weren't awake. He'd been not relying on them for so long that using them even a little bit was like,
well, that's why we emphasize so much. Like when you start out in our office, we're doing like there's certain exercises using those muscle groups early on, because in the 90s when I started, nobody was really, you didn't really identify muscle groups or certain things. So
right.
I found out that I wasn't using muscles that I could still use to ambulate.
Right.
You want to get Chris up?
Sure. Chris, do you want to come up here? Do you want to come up here and demonstrate? Here, give me the ball. So we're having Chris demonstrate kind of quickly as a transfemoral amputee.
Yeah,
So
Chris isn't above the knee. So
yeah, so his prosthesis is here. And so I'm still going to come down below outside and see. The other thing that's going to help him is I'm going to add a little counter force here. So that without actually doing it, it was hard to describe that. But I'm not going to let him drop this ball. Outside, inside, front, back, outside, inside. See, he was anticipating me there. Outside, inside, front, back, outside, inside. See, you can hold the ball. Yep.
So does that translate as efficiently for you?
Okay. Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if everybody could hear Chris online there.
Actually, should I get a microphone, or are you just going to explain?
I mean, I can just, but what he said, what Chris was just explaining to me was that, especially when he comes to the outside there, he feels it more as like a rotation of his femur inside the socket than actually moving things. If he were just to push out, he feels like he would drop the ball. So what he feels like is he can make that sensation by rotating his femur a little bit, which is what would create that contact point between the socket and right. Exactly. Yep. Right. We should have got the. So what he's saying is that he feels like that rotation is kind of lending itself to being more like a real world scenario, and that it feels more natural, like when he's walking, when he does rotate his femur, because our ground isn't all flat level.
Well, that makes sense, because what we're trying to get out of this is hip rotation.
Right.
I mean, that's what's lacking. That.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks,
a big part of what we were talking about with that story was the therapist that we talked about that almost knocked me down was because I found out I wasn't rotating my hips.
Right.
So I think that's when when Chris.
But I mean, to balance yourself on uneven ground, you're really rolling your femur.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. Right.
Well, you got more soft tissue, so that the femur is moving.
as you can be. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Cool.
Okay.
So does everybody feel pretty good about that exercise if we had a chance to kind of go through it?
How's that
Um,
working for you, Julie? Okay. Let Chris work with her a little bit because he was just kind of explaining something to us too about the road.
So that's all the seated exercises we're going to do today. The rest of it's going to involve standing up. So, oh, I guess we're not caught up yet.
Julie was missing some of the stuff he was talking about, and I just saw Blair was working
Yep.
with her, so he's just kind of going. But we can continue.
Okay.
I just wanted him working with her because
So the next section is going to be standing up. So if everybody wants to go ahead, and we're just going to kind of do this stuff together here. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time with weight shifting. And while we're doing this weight shifting, we want to kind of continue to think about those control points inside the prosthesis as you're shifting onto and off of the prosthesis. So we start with feet at a fairly narrow stance, not real wide, maybe just inside of shoulders here, because we want this to feel like you're shifting outside of your comfort zone here. So if everybody can kind of bring two chairs, we've got two chairs for everybody here. If we can kind of just get between the chairs just for balance sake.
so if you're at home and you got a couple chairs you could put on each side, that might work a little bit better than a walker because the walker's
Fairly narrow and
fairly narrow and
constricted. Yeah.
confining. Yep.
Yep. So what Scott's going to do here is he's going to demonstrate these weight shifts from side to side and maybe explain what you're feeling inside the socket as you do it.
So as I go to the outside, I can feel the muscles on the outside socket wall pushing against the socket to help me keep my balance. And as I come to the inside, it's kind of the same thing. So again, we should feel those muscles contracting inside of the socket to help us with balance. Everybody feel? Yes. Well, that's what I mentioned earlier about, so these muscles, you talked about the glutes, how they work in unison with other muscles. And really, when I started running after I was doing these exercises, found that, why when I run, am I dipping? Because I'm really trying to work hard on just my extensor muscles. And I found that all of a sudden, if I plantar flexed or pushed my toes down inside of the socket, which obviously that's not doing anything when I run, then my core would stay stable. So I talked to several therapists and I finally found one that said, well, when you plantar flex or push your toes down, that actually stabilizes all the way through and helps your extensors so that you don't get that. Because we all know that dip we had when we just do regular walking and how we got rid of that by firing the extensors. You think when you're running, it's just so much happening so much quicker. It's so much more dynamic. And you really couldn't stop that dip. I would see videos and be like, man, I'm really working so hard to push on my extensors. Why is that happening? So I just found that to be very interesting. But that's when we really started to focus how we still need to fire those muscles that we're not using in our foot to help stabilize us all the way up through our core, and how much more efficient that is. So yeah, if you're feeling them up through there, that's great. So
this is a great exercise to do just this way, but as we want to make it so if everyone
So at home, you may not have a TheraBand this time, but we'll recap on this next time so that we're kind of showing how everyone can do the muscles or work these at home by themselves. And we're introducing the TheraBands and other ways that you could do them with someone else. So if you have a partner and a TheraBand, next time we'll kind of revisit this a little bit shortly so you can work on this latter part of these exercises at home. But you will find effectiveness of it just shifting your weight back and forth. It just intensifies it with the resistance.
And then what we can do is, as that gets to be easier, I can change my direction of my
Do you
pull.
feel how much more intense it is though with the, yeah. I don't know that it gets easier, but
What's that?
He's over here. It's like, as it gets easier, I'm like, well, you're not.
Well, I didn't mean easier. I meant when I want to make this harder.
Yeah,
Is
that's
the way
what
I should have said it.
I know
When
what
I
you
want to
meant.
make this harder, this 45-degree angle is about the hardest one. This is the hardest angle. And if we do one direction, we want to make sure we balance it out and do the other direction too.
So, Julie, do you feel that getting to be more intense? I just didn't want you to think I break out a sweat like the first 20 seconds of exercise. You're like,
What am I dealing with here?
what kind of triathlon
Right.
is this guy doing?
Right. Okay. Next, we're going to do the same thing, weight shifting, but now we're going to go from heel to toe. Rocking back and forth from heel to toe.
So we still want you to think like from side to side, the inside, outside muscles inside of the socket. So now as we go from front to toe, but still don't forget, we want you to identify those muscles. Be aware of the muscles that you're firing inside of the socket while you're doing these balancing exercises.
It's kind of the kind of thing where you can create your own tension, right? By really making contractions inside the socket and pushing back and forth. You can make your own tension even without the band here.
Yep.
The band just, again, makes it a little bit more challenging or a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
Actually. So again, let's do about 20 of those. Just go through.
So I'm just going front, back.
And if you guys want to add, if people want to add bands, go ahead. Yep. Do you want to do it with the bands?
Scott, quit cheating using your good leg.
Right.
I kind of looked at him like, and he said, well, I'm missing 7 toes, so he only has 3 toes. So he said, I totally get it.
So I'm feeling those muscles from the front wall and the back wall of the socket.
All right. After everybody's done with that, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do staggered stance in both directions this time. So it doesn't matter.
What are we gonna do? Demonstrate with the band?
Oh, we
how
can
to-
demonstrate with the
yeah,
band.
just-
So typically I'd start with this. I'd start to one side here as he's going
So
front to
now
back.
I'm just doing what I was, front to back, but with the band. See, most people have already started doing that. So you can see I'm just going onto the toes. So just imagine you're on the prosthetic foot and you're rocking from your heel to your toes.
And then so right now I'm pulling away from Scott's prosthesis. And then I'm gonna switch and make it harder and pull
Thanks, partner.
towards pulling towards his prosthesis. And this is where, maybe you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. I mean, do you feel, how does this compare when I switch sides?
I mean,
Scott?
I'm definitely working the other side more intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Dave said, you can really feel it in the calf.
Okay.
So,
Everybody shake it out a little bit. Give yourself a little break.
yeah, if your muscles feel a little tight, which they should, just kind of, you can tap your leg on the ground, kind of.
Right.
Does that
Yep.
help?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Does this
you
help?
feel the muscles? Yeah.
Right, shaking it. I mean, yeah, kind of shake. Do like just some general loosening kinds of things. So then we're going to do staggered stance with one foot in front of the, not in front, but like you've taken a step. So in that
You
position
want the
where,
prosthetic foot forward?
sure, it does. We're going to do both sides, so it doesn't matter. So with this one, this is a diagonal shift. You're going to go from the heel on the back foot up to the little toe of the front foot, and then back to the heel of the back foot to the little toe of the front foot. So this really kind of puts you in that balanced position, and especially when we add the band here, this is a big one for kind of keeping that stability when you decide to start walking on uneven ground, on having your core engaged at the right time. Having your core engaged has you start to load the front foot and take
Yeah, you
go
really
move
can't
forward.
do it without engaging the core.
You can't do it without engaging your core. And then especially here, now if we add the band, you guys can all go ahead and kind of let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going.
So I'll start by being straight behind him, and I want Scott to tell me I'm gonna move in a bunch of different directions. I want him to tell me what's the hardest one for him.
Well, that one's pretty on the inside of my calf. Yeah, that's pretty good right there.
It's a pretty hard one.
Mm-hmm.
How about as I come diagonal away from your or towards your prosthesis?
Well, now I'm just working the opposite side to the outside
Okay.
wall, like more the little toe.
Is that easier, harder, or just different?
Right now, it's easier because I'm given
The other side that's fatigued is break?
yes.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Then how about if I come straight to the side?
That's easier.
That's easier.
Yeah.
How about
That actually is good for helping get you in the proper position. Like with the resistance, you have to really use your muscles from the angle to get there.
okay?
So that's kind of a good starting point, definitely from
Yeah.
side to side.
So how about I'm on the other side?
Yeah, it's that same muscle again, but not as intense. It's just
Okay.
really fatigued.
So working from the side is a little less intense. Scott was saying that when I was working on the side, on his prosthetic side, he felt that was a good place to start with the tension band. Like that really. So Abby, if you wanted to switch to the other side for Steve, Scott was saying that was a really good spot to start. Like that kind of really helps to show where
Shift you in the proper plane.
shift in the proper plane,
At
like
the
what you're
same
trying
time
to do.
forcing you to fire those muscles. Because you really, when you're working at the angled with the resistance, you need to really fire those muscles to go against the resistance of the band. Does, he doesn't get it.
All right. Everybody feel like they got a pretty good workout of their limb inside the socket? Okay, good. So
But
we're
like I
gonna
said,
we're
I'm
gonna
the
shift
girl
gears
version of
and we're
my
gonna
dad.
start working up a little bit and work some different muscles and give the ones that don't get, we're gonna give those ones a rest for the rest of the day. They're not gonna get hammered. The muscles inside the socket aren't gonna get hammered on the same way
Yeah.
anymore. Because I think those ones wear people out.
Yeah. Those are, well, because think last time we ended there.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So the next thing that we're gonna do is called the heel strikes.
Yep.
So do you want to go ahead and demonstrate what a heel strike looks like?
So now we've got to think when we're doing the purpose of this exercise is we want to engage the extensors and the muscles on the back wall of the socket. So this is an exercise. This isn't like you're taking a step. So if I say do a heel strike, we don't want to see you do this. We want you to exaggerate as if you're using all your force. And I always say, I want to hear that heel drive down into the ground as hard as you can. So to do that, like I'm going to try to go, you hear that noise? If I
Where's
just
the
go like
mic?
this, you really want to as hard as you can. So to do that, oftentimes what we see when people are walking with you want to
Yeah.
demonstrate the sound?
Yeah.
Good. So you can even, if you want to make it louder, come from up here and drive down further. But the thing is, oftentimes when we see people ambulate on a prosthetic limb, either above the knee or below the knee, what we see is at some point when you're coming forward, you have to change. You're pushing on imagine you're using these flexors and you're pushing on the front wall of that socket. At some point to do that, you have to change direction and push on the back wall of the socket. And we want you driving the heel down into the ground. This is what we often see. People are using their flexors and they're kind of throwing the leg forward and they're letting gravity bring the heel down. But tell me, has anyone seen this before on someone walking with a prosthesis? See what's happening? They're not using the muscles. They're using the prosthetic limb like a crutch, okay? You're just simply our hip flexors are stronger than our extensors. So you're bringing that leg forward, letting it hit the ground, and you're just shifting your weight off of it. And that's where all this movement comes into play.
Yep.
So,
I'm gonna,
so to start out,
show you
the
real quick.
first thing
Here,
that
Steve, come
has
on
to
back.
happen, you start out with the foot behind you, okay, on your toes of the prosthetic foot. This is my prosthetic side. So doesn't matter if you're right or left, get the prosthetic foot behind you. And we want you to initiate flexion, bring the leg forward, and change direction. You got to push down in the back wall of that socket to drive it into the ground. So when I say set, I want to hear everybody's heels driving into the ground together. Okay. So when I say set, everyone's prosthetic limb should be behind them on your toes. You see how I am here? And when I say strike, we're all together going to go. So set, ready, strike, set, strike. Now you should feel these muscles engaging back here. Is there anyone not feeling that? Dave, are you feeling it? Okay. Anyone not feeling it? Okay, so we're going to do a set of 10. So when you do these are our strength training exercises. When we do this, if you can't do 10 and you do 6, that's fine. Maybe you're doing 3 sets of 6, you're doing 3 sets of 10, maybe 3 sets of 14. Or if you're 14, you could move from 3 to 4. Find your comfort zone. The idea is the more that you do it, we should be increasing those numbers. So if you're starting out with 3 sets of 6 and a week later you're doing 3 sets of 8, that's great. That's improvement. So we're going to try to do a set of 10. If you can't do all 10, that's fine. But here we go. So when we say set, everyone in the position with the prosthesis behind them on the toe. When we say strike, we're all going to strike together. So when we say strike, then we'll all do the number. We'll say 1, 2, 3. If we lose count, we'll just start over. I used to coach basketball, so it's my favorite thing, wasn't it? All right, ready, set, strike. 1, set, strike. Set, strike. Okay, I want to hear them louder next time, okay? I want to hear everyone. Set, strike. Good. Set, strike. Set, strike. Set, strike. Set, strike. Set, strike. Set, strike. So the idea is we should feel these muscles back here working.
Right. And it's about, the idea is that's really good about this is it kind of helps you to think about starting to get those muscles working on the way towards the ground. Obviously, we're not going to try to teach you to walk like this. I mean, we don't want to see people walking around like that.
This is not a walking exercise. It's a strength training exercise.
But what it does is it helps to get your brain in tune with the idea that I want these muscles engaged. I want them active and ready and already firing, not just ready to fire, but already firing before I hit the ground, so that when my heel touches the ground, no matter what direction things are, these are already strong and engaged and ready to pull, ready to propel me forward. So it's really, if we go here and then try to start pulling, we've already started to transfer our weight. That's when we start, whoa, the ground starts to throw us around a little bit. When all this stuff is engaged from our core all the way through here, that's when we're able to kind of traverse again across uneven terrain and some of those things. And also, we had a lot of people kind of talk about having difficulty walking up inclines. These are obviously, we don't want to see a big firm heel strike on incline, but these muscles that we're using are super important for when we're in this position and pushing and driving, and to have those be ready to fire and activate is very important.
The idea is it's strength training like lifting weights and also identifying the muscle groups. I mean, there's people here, and then maybe the first time I stood you up on your prosthetic limb in my office when you were on a test socket before you even took a step, I might have had us do heel strikes. Anybody remember doing heel strikes in a test socket? That's because the idea was we're identifying the muscles. If you know that they're there and it's an exaggerated form, but then you're going, okay. And if you start out that way, it's a lot easier to identify the muscle groups at the beginning than it is to try to correct bad habits.
Right.
That's hard to do.
So the next half of that exercise is, okay, we've just taken our step, our heels on the ground. Now what's next? We want to use these same muscles that are engaged to pull through to get our other, so that we're not, what we don't want to see is coming off and having that other foot slam to the ground. We want to be able to take a nice controlled step across the prosthesis so that when our heel hits on the other side, we're not creating lots of shear force. We're not doing things that, could cause problems on the other foot.
Right. So if you're not very strong there, this one will get you because you got to keep your balance. And we don't want you to come very fast. The idea is go slow, try to exaggerate it all the way through till you almost lose control.
So that the slower the better. So that's where, I mean, honestly, if it becomes, there is some balance involved in this, but if you're having some difficulty with
maybe
balance or making it consistent, I mean, you can even kind of be here and just with even two fingers down. That'll help you really slow and make sure that we're also not pushing off with this back foot. This isn't a spring forward. It's not a calf building exercise for that side. It's a hamstring building exercise for this side.
What I don't want to see is anyone pushing off with their sound.
So it's almost
everything's initiated.
This comes up and then we're pulling.
So
Scott,
the same
I guess
extent.
we'll make an exception for you.
Scott, were you
right? Scott's bilateral, so if anybody can't see that,
we've been picking on him today.
He doesn't have an ankle to push off with. So, so if everybody wants to go ahead and go through these, Scott will keep.
So we'll try to do
demonstrating it.
10
We'll do the
pull
same
throughs
thing. Yep.
again. So set means now we have your sound limb or your good leg. Scott, you can pick one behind you, and then I'm just going to say pull.
This is our last exercise before break too. So if
Yeah,
anybody's getting a little tired,
we'll be due for a break after this,
Yeah.
I think. So ready, set, and pull. 0. Okay, 0.
Okay.
I just wanted, because you said earlier, so like the slower you're doing this workout, it just seems like the step, the more you're actually working the back of your hamstring.
Yeah, if you're
So
going
don't
like
worry
this,
about being like fast with your step. It's like the slower you're at, the more you're actually getting the workout.
if I push off with my good leg and I'm not controlling myself here, it looks like this. To actually just get my forward momentum from my extensors, it takes me almost that much time to get forward momentum. Okay, so ready, set, pull. 2. Set, pull. 3. Set, pull. Set, pull. Set, pull. Set, pull.
somebody wants to get done.
Set, pull. Set, pull. Set, pull. 10.
Okay.
So lastly, I'll just do a demonstration if people want to walk before we take the break. So how we closed last time was we identified the muscle groups. Then we did some of the exercises. And then we talked about now imagine walking, and we don't want to do the exaggerating but just try to walk, but imagine planting the heel and feel as you go through the muscles firing inside of the socket. So you should be going from heel to the little toe to big toe. And identify those muscles while you're walking. So as you walk, it should, on the prosthetic side, heel, little toe, big toe, heel, little toe, big toe, heel, little toe, big toe. Ready to kind of walk and tell me tell me if you don't feel that. Can you feel those muscles, Steve? You weren't here last time, so I know that.
Do you feel that the difference? So what it does, Steve, is that it keeps you on your prosthetic side. Oh, so you did all this stuff.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's fortunate because there's not a lot of. Yep. We've got that. That's on our list of things. Right. But we'll
What's
be doing that. But that's good because not a lot of therapists know this
Okay.
stuff. So we're trying to. Well, we're gonna be doing some of that stuff too. And we're gonna be doing some of that next. But
Did I tell you the story about
Yep,
Pine Knob
yep.
last time that I mentioned?
Yeah,
it?
so you had good therapy.
They got the really
Where did you
wide
do your
stairs.
therapy?
Okay, so
Oh, yeah,
but
I
that's when
forgot-
I
I
really
forgot about
felt.
that,
That's
yep.
why when you said stairs, like, yeah, I could really tell on the
Yep, I
stairs
knew that.
because you need to exaggerate, and that's when you really need to get out on that big toe. And before I was kind of get to that middle toe area and you fall forward. Yeah, but to do stairs well, you really need to get out there.
So we're gonna take about a 15-minute break
Good.
here.
So it's working.
So
Great.
if you guys want to go ahead and maybe do a little conversation online, then we will reconvene here soon.
Yeah, we'll reconvene in 15 minutes.
Yep.
So it's 5 o'clock now.
So
5:15.
5:15, yeah.
So
Right on schedule.
okay, great.
Hi, everybody. All right, 1 second, guys. I think we're good. Technical difficulties, just getting everything set up here. All right, can you guys hear me?
What's up, Abby?
All right, sorry. We're singing happy birthday in the background here.
There.
We always have to bring in goodies and snacks. That's the one benefit of being here live, but we always make sure people have goodies because as much as we like to hope that people come for the exercise, we know that it's really being able to meet and interact with people and sometimes the snacks too. So Harry, you're pretty recent, pretty soon out on your amputation here.
Yeah, I'm 6 weeks after surgery right now.
Okay. And you got your prep, so I'm sure you're starting to use that a little bit, but also take it easy and not overdo it initially. And
Yep, I got it today, and so I'm here to learn.
good. What have you thought of this so far?
Oh, very interesting. I thought about using these muscle groups like that, so I'm
Yeah, and
anxious to try it.
Yeah, I mean, this will be super helpful for you starting out too, just to kind of learn that a lot of it, we try to teach people how do you respond to your environment instead of trying to control the prosthesis of figuring out that response and control and balance. And so a lot of that helps identify those muscles to help you walk.
Thank you.
So how did things go with getting your prep? You felt like everything went well with that and you're good? Happy to get something and start being able to walk and I know that can be the hard part is just waiting to start getting things moving, right? And whereabouts, Harry, whereabouts in West Michigan are you?
I actually live in Spring Lake, which is right between Muskegon and Grand Haven.
Oh, okay. So that's almost over in John's neck of the woods a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up about an hour south of there. I don't know if you've heard of the small town of Hopkins. Usually call it close to the Gun Lake Casino, if anybody knows where that is. And
But John, what have you thought so far? How's this been?
I mean, it's definitely been helpful because, like, I know we were talking about it earlier when we were down in Florida, but the whole like actually controlling the prosthesis with the muscles as opposed to just swinging a leg around, giving the patient a little bit more responsibility with their leg essentially to walk better with it.
And I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of people too that are just passive walkers that don't put in the control and trying to figure that and how to communicate it. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a
And
good
it,
tool.
yeah, and it just gives more things to do at appointments, like that follow-ups and a delivery, just to really not just give them a leg and tell them good luck, but to actually make sure they're walking well on it.
Well, and I think the biggest thing too is it's hard with therapy, right? That you only have physical therapy for so long, and then trying to, so who takes responsibility for that then long term of making sure that patients are still getting the training that they need when they're no longer in physical therapy.
Yeah, especially a lot of times when insurance only covers 12 visits of physical therapy, and that's never enough. Yep.
So Harry, are you in physical therapy now too?
I start physical therapy next week.
Okay, good.
How long has this been going on, knowing that you have this and knowing that you don't have an idea? How long has it been going on, knowing that you have this coming up and knowing that you don't have an idea?
Sorry, I missed that in the background. What was the question? Harry, was there a question there or no? No? Okay.
So I know Scott and Nate were mentioning it, but they said something about like posting these videos online for reference down the line.
Oh yeah, yep. So it'll be
Perfect.
available to kind of go back and look at. And I mean, this is something that you can't reach everybody in Michigan. And so the more people that you can get hands-on that have the same skills and can help teach as many patients, that's what we're here for. And we want to help as many people as possible. So the more
Yeah.
prosthetists, the more therapists, the more people that we can work with. It's just a different way of approaching therapy and helping people walk with their prosthesis and kind of optimize their function. So, yep, it'll all be available online after each session. And then a lot of this, so it is kind of built as a progression that we start with some of the basics and then refer back to a lot of the techniques from past sessions and kind of start building on a lot of that. So a lot of the people that we have, I mean, even through the introductions, you guys heard that we have people that have been amputees for 25 years. And getting back to some of these fundamental things that when they go through it each time, they continue to take things away from that to learn and say, oh, okay, yeah, like it's not a step backwards, it's a step forward, but learning how to use things optimally.
Gotcha.
Because that's kind of some of the feedback that we get with some people, if they'll look at it and be like, oh, like this seems very basic. But when you haven't had that type of training before, that it can be very beneficial.
Yeah. And obviously you got to start little and build up to something bigger. Yep.
Great.
Yeah, it'll definitely be nice to have a reference to give patients to, because obviously there's only so much time in the office, so have something to link them towards.
Right, to go back and say, okay, when you're at home, here's some things that you can do.
Yep.
And then we've been good for the online groups, trying to send out a list of things to have on hand too, and trying to make sure that we know like ahead of time of like level of amputations. And kind of how to modify things. So we do a lot of transtibial and transfemoral, but then also with like partial foot. So it's a little bit different than when you don't have the socket and you're trying to go through the steps of identifying like heel, little toe, big toe. So how that translates to different levels.
Cool.
But yeah.
Yep.
So Harry, what are some of your goals with your prosthesis? Any activities that you want to get back to?
Well, yeah, I hope to be back playing tennis here in another couple of months. But you know, since this is the first day with my prosthesis, I'm just wondering how fast I can take it. But yeah, I want to be back and be on my bike and start playing tennis and that sort of thing by this summer, certainly.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, tennis is a big one that there's a lot of kind of small little steps and a lot of control. And we have a handful of patients that have gotten back. And then riding bikes too. I mean, we're starting to get into the nicer weather this time of year, right? So you're like, okay, there's more stuff that you can do outside. You're not just going out to shovel the snow and salt the driveway, and can actually get out and enjoy it a little bit more and not be worried about the ice.
Yeah, well, I still got snow in the yard, but it's slowly getting thinner.
Slowly, less and less, right? So
Well, it sounds like these exercises would be a good thing for you too, just to, especially with tennis, with all that side to side movement, really having a good control of your prosthesis by working on these muscle groups is going to be huge for you.
Yeah. So how often do you do these presentations?
So we host this once a month, up through, I think the last one is June, and then we usually take a break for the summer just because the weather's nice. We find that a lot of people are out traveling, camping. There's a lot more to do outside. So we kind of let people go and enjoy their summers. And I mean, we also like to go camping and travel too. So it's a good time of year to do it. And then we start back up usually after Labor Day. And so then we host it once a month.
Okay, thank you.
But there's other exercises that we post online too. And so there's a lot of resources that we've been trying to just make things as accessible as possible for people. Because we had been doing this regularly, and I'm new to the team here. So Scott and Nate had been hosting this a lot before I came on. But with that, when the pandemic hit, we found that a lot of things got shut down. And so we've been trying to navigate how do we broaden our audience for people that can't make it in person or that live across the state, or we've had people at our last one from all the way on the other side of the country. So trying to just broaden our audience and include more people and make things as accessible as possible. But yep, once a month. How long have you been playing? I played tennis through high school and college, but how long had you been playing for? Is that something you played kind of your whole life?
Have I been playing my whole life? Is that what you asked? Yeah, I have. I've always been very, very active. So, and we live on a lake, and I have jet skis and boats and all the toys that go with the water sports. So, looking forward to getting back into it this summer.
Nice. Yeah, so Scott, the one that's been up on the stage, he's a big water skier. Loves to get out. So even on his prosthesis, he gets out on the water, and it was one of those things that just figuring out how to do it again. And he can carve it up pretty good on the water.
Well, someday I will too, hopefully.
Right. But I mean, that's also something with being on the lake. I'm sure you brought this up, but mentioned to your prosthetist that, yeah, you're on the lake, you're around water, so they can make sure that the leg that they build for you can handle that. Just so that's something that we usually consider of when we're picking out components of, okay, he's going to be up and around water. So those are all good things to tell him and make sure that he knows what he or she knows what your goals are.
Yeah.
John, have you worked with a lot of people that play tennis?
Not tennis in particular, but we have a coworker who's an above knee amputee who does a lot of skiing, snowboarding, water skiing.
Nice.
What else does Jake do? He does everything. Skateboarding. He's rough and tough on everything.
So he's a good one to test stuff out.
Yep. Yeah, he's always the patient model when we have companies come in.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And then Okay. All right. So Harry, we're getting ready to start this back up here, and we're going to put you in the spotlight a little bit. Just because we have people that have been through this and that have been where you're at. So if you have any questions for the group here as we start bringing everybody together, and then we're going to ask them too if they have any tips or tricks or pointers, advice, things that they wish they would have known kind of earlier on. So we want to make sure that we connect you and kind of have you talked to people that have been where you're at too.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna sign off here, and I'll stay on, and we'll kind of talk to you guys with questions as we get the group back together here. And then at the end, we're gonna do an interactive session too with the people that are here live, as well as with the online group. So, all right, I'm gonna switch things over here, and then we'll get you in with the rest of the people here.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I don't know. Bill knows. Okay, we're good to switch back over here.
Okay, we're
No,
back.
I'm not. Okay.
Can you hear us, Bill?
Can you hear us? Okay, great.
Okay, so we talked about at the end, kind of interacting with the virtual and our group here, but we decided before we get started or get into the next group exercises, Harry is joining us, and he had mentioned that he was just fit with his new prosthesis today. Is that right? So Harry, I want to maybe give you an opportunity to tell us or ask some questions or ask questions to the group about what you might expect or any questions that you might have about what the prosthesis experience has been on the test socket of the prosthesis so far.
Or if
And
anybody here has any advice for Harry that they
Well,
want to give to kind of get things going.
that's what I was
also.
going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then have anyone in the group, if they have any advice for Harry, I just thought this might be a good time to kind of interact with one another. So I think we'll let Harry start off, and then we can get the microphone out there for anyone else who might want to either answer any questions or have anything that they might want to say to Harry, because today's a big day if you just got fit with the prosthesis for the first time. So. Well, if we can unmute the mic, we're working on it. Oh, there you are. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We
sure
can.
can.
Hope you don't mind us. putting you on the
Okay,
spot.
I'm actually so new at this that I don't even know enough to ask questions yet. So I'm enjoying what you're doing and looking forward to learning how to do it.
Okay. Oh, well, we thought, you might have questions. I'm sure some people here, we got people here who've worn prosthetic limbs for a long time. Some people who are newer at it, but I don't know if anyone has any advice for Harry or anything that they want to share that they think could be helpful. I just thought this might be a good time to do that. Do we have the microphone? Anyone?
Hey, Harry.
He didn't have any questions. He said he's so new at it that he's not.
I would just say that to take your time and celebrate all your firsts. Don't get overexcited about like trying to do too much all at once or too much too fast. Just it's a little bit of a process to get going. And then once you get going, it's like rolling a big boulder. It starts out a little slow. It's a little tough at first. And the more you go, the easier it gets, I guess. That would be my advice for you. But to celebrate all your firsts, the first time you do stairs, the first time you do an incline or a decline, or
First steps.
Yeah, first steps in the parallel bars, first steps on your own, first steps, walk into the mailbox or whatever it is. Celebrate it. Celebrate it. It's a huge achievement. You're overcoming unbelievable odds by doing it, and it's something to be celebrated for sure. So don't not give it the attention it deserves.
That's great advice. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Scott, I mean, you reminded me, I remember way back in my rehab, a lot of frustration that I always felt because I was comparing myself to the Scott that I was before the accident. And, my therapist, who worked with me quite a bit, saw me through a lot of highs and lows. And at one point I was about 3 months into the rehab process, and I was talking to him about giving up therapy and quitting. And he said, well, why is that? And I was frustrated that I was still using a cane to walk. And he said something to me that from that day forward kind of changed my approach. And it's the advice that Scott's giving about celebrating your first. And he said, you remember the question that you asked me the first day you met me? And I kind of, I was like, no. And he said, you asked me if you'd ever be able to walk again. He's like, and here you are walking. And at the time, you're kind of having your moments, which we're entitled to because we are dealing with a lot. And a lot of times we don't even really process psychologically what we're going through because you're still in that survival mode of trying to go through the stuff day in and day out. But, that's when I realized, okay, I have made some headway, but I was comparing myself to why am I not walking without a walker? I can see how I'd be able to run. There's so many inconsistencies when we first start out because your limb is still going to undergo so much change. Your limb is going to continue to shrink. And so the prosthetic fit won't be as consistent. And the longer you wear that, I like Scott's analogy about it's like moving a big boulder and then you start to build momentum. As things become more reliable, you can count on it. And I always thought from that day forward, I wanted to, it's like if you were climbing a mountain and every 100 feet you were to grab a flag, but if you might be halfway up that mountain and just keep looking up and think you got so far to go, feel like you didn't get anywhere. But if you were to look in your, sack and say, hey, I've collected 25 flags along the way, we have to see some positive results for the work we put in because it is a lot of work. So celebrating your accomplishments, it's no matter how small, they're not small. They're all significant because they do snowball. They lead to that place to where you're going because a year and a half from now, you're going to look back and things are going to seem so much different than where you are. And I think everyone here and the people that always talk about how they like to come to the group and talk with other people, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Am I right?
Attitude's a big thing too.
Yeah.
That positive attitude go a lot farther than the negative attitude.
Yep. Yeah.
So the other thing that that we really mention a lot during our program is that we've really found that it takes 2 years to kind of maximize your potential or to realize your potential with the prosthesis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where Scott was talking about the boulder and moving the boulder. It's a long process. It doesn't happen, and we don't mean 2 years to walk. We don't mean 2 years to achieve these incremental goals, but it's a long process for the whole thing to really kind of come to fruition.
Most people we work with are walking right away.
Right.
So keep in mind, that's not what we're talking about. We don't mean by maximizing your functional ability. That means walking because I think, we're talking about so much more than that. We're talking about adapting to that prosthesis and reacting to life situations in real time, which are things that I don't know if a lot of other people discuss that or not, but it's, yeah.
Right.
The first year, the strength training, learning how to walk, doing the first, and then adapting with those inconsistencies because of the change in the limb. That's such a real thing that second year is when we start to talk about. That's when you're going to find a question that oftentimes Nate and I would talk about. We'd get asked by people when they first start physical therapy. They say, oh, when you're coming up to a curb, what foot do you lead with? Anybody think that sound like something you might have thought about when you first got started? Why is that? You're using an assistive device, right? And you're coming up there and you're like, oh gosh, I got to get, prosthetic down or, whichever one. So you see this curve and all of a sudden we get nervous because we're anticipating we're there and where's our foot placement going to be? So I'd realize, and we would realize why they're asking the question. So I would counteract that with another question. I'd say, well, what foot did you lead with before? What do you think the answer always is? I don't know, because I didn't pay attention. That's what we mean about reacting to real life situations. Before, when you walked, you continued to take steps until you came up to the curb, and then you just stepped over whichever foot was in. And you can get that way on the prosthetic limb. If you're walking up steps foot over foot, if a ball rolls out in front of you, right, or a branch, you just step over it. And that's what we mean about reacting to your environment and reacting to circumstances. And that takes time to get to that point. But that second year is really, that's when you really notice life-changing type changes, when you're saying, okay, I really can see this is working. And I think a lot of people would think that's maybe progressing at a level that when we first started out, it's hard for us to imagine that, because those inconsistencies, they really are frustrating. I mean, you'll have one day on the prosthesis where you're like, I felt great today. This is like the best day I ever did. And then the next day you try to put your leg on and it just, why does it hurt? Why can I not get it comfortable? I mean, and the reality is, we have in the back of our mind, if this is what life is going to be like, then living life on a prosthesis almost seems unreliable, because if I don't know that I can count on the limb to get through my daily activities, and what we always try to tell people and reinforce is this is temporary. Everyone goes through this. Am I right? Is there anyone here who didn't experience that? Yeah, sometimes we might overdo it, but it does get more consistent. Yeah, and
changes what goes on during the day for your socket.
I mean, and not only are we losing body mass from the surgery and fluid, we might develop, we're developing muscle mass in other areas through therapy. So that limb is just, the anatomical shape is just changing. So.
Sure.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I'm glad we actually did do the interaction part now. Then,
Absolutely.
So I think we've got about 5 more minutes before Harry's going to be leaving us, but I don't know. Does anyone else want to share anything else with?
Well, Harry, we really want to say thanks for coming. It's been great having you here, especially it's got to be a big day first day getting your prosthesis, kind of getting to meet a group of people who are using their prosthesis, and so hopefully we can see you again next time, and maybe we'll be able to see you stand up and participate a little bit. We'll all be looking forward to it.
Thank you. I look forward to that too.
Great. So with that being said, we're all going to get back up too, because we've had enough break.
We got more work to do. Silly rabbits. You
Right.
didn't think it was going to be
You
that
didn't
easy,
think you were
did
done yet, did you? Now, the one thing is we won't be doing so much stuff that focuses on the limb inside the prosthesis. We're going to be doing a lot more strengthening of kind of the hips and some, almost not abs, but core type exercises now. So, first one we're going to do is an exercise we call Steamboats. Different people call it different things, but
you know what we didn't do though with the heel strikes? Maybe we want to start there and then get into the Steamboats. Remember we were going to do the front, side.
We probably need to keep it moving if we're going to get through it. But we'll go through. We still got that in our pocket for next time then.
Sure.
So what we're going to do with the Steamboats is we're going to start by standing, and we're going to keep our sound limb, or just if you're Scott, pick one or the other, on the ground, and we're going to be lifting the prosthetic side, and we're just going to come out to the side here and do a lateral leg raise. So again, you can see that if you want to put a couple fingers on a chair, if you want to even hold right onto the chair, this is less a balance exercise than it is an exercise to focus on these specific muscle contractions at your hip. So it's not this. It's not, we want that shoulder to stay really in one place, even if it means that your foot doesn't come up as high. So let's do about 10 or 15 of those right now.
So I'm just going to encourage everyone, even with just my fingers on the chair, it just does so much to stabilize you that I can really focus on what's going on with the prosthetic side and using the weight of that prosthesis as resistance. How many did you say, Nate?
It's a 10 to 15, but I'm doing 10 and I'm getting pretty tired. I don't know about the rest of you. Right. Thanks, Casey.
That's 12.
And so then, when easy is the wrong word, because those aren't going to get easy. I just did 15 of them, and that starts to burn right there. It's a small muscle that we're isolating. That gets to be really hard. But when we want to challenge ourselves more, we can take a band tie it around. This is really a great exercise for the bands, and I'm going to grab the chair too for this one because this is going to be hard. But we get a lot more resistance at the end range here. Now, if you're with your prosthesis, you see I had this all the way down to my ankles. Don't put the band at your ankles.
You want to get up around where your socket is.
At least if you're below the knee or above the knee, it doesn't matter. The band should not be below the lowest point of the cut end of your bone. So if you're below the knee and you're cut here, you can go all the way down to here if you want. If you're above the knee and you're cut to here, I want you up here. You're going to have to put a tighter band on. You're going to have to use a thicker, tighter band here, way up here. But the idea is we don't want it down so low, because what that does is it starts to pull the prosthesis on your limb and it starts to put pressures in the wrong way. And that's not what the point of the exercise is. The point of the exercise is to just isolate these hip muscles, really kind of challenge them. Yes, this is a great exercise without the prosthesis, but again, safety, safety, safety. If you don't have a prosthesis, if your limb is healing and you're in a position where a fall could traumatize your limb and maybe slow down how fast you can get your prosthesis, hold on to something.
Is someone who joined us?
walker-
I was going to demonstrate. Do they not have a prosthesis yet? The person that. Okay.
Right.
Just to.
Yes.
Do we have any kind of pillow? So like the short arc quads, that
Right.
type of thing. Like if you're lying down, that'll work if you don't have anything in it. So what you can do if you don't have the prosthesis and you're lying there and you get a pillow underneath your back, okay, you can do leg lifts like this. And if you're with the pillow, if you're elevated, you can push down. So you're doing the extensors, the flexors, and then you can come side to side like this. So these are, you're working your adductors. And you can even increase that if you're on your side and you wanted to do the adductors by coming out like this. So imagine that you don't have the prosthesis on and you can work different directions as well. So, or if you're coming from the side, you use gravity as as resistance.
Right.
Okay. Well, I already did it, but thanks.
So the big thing is the way Scott was demonstrating the one where he was laying on his back, that's a very, he's got a strong core. That's a really strong core exercise. That might put a lot of strain on your lower back if you're trying to build the strength. So that's why he's suggesting the pillow to be the support. Don't push past pain in your lower back. It'll only get worse. It's not worth it. Adapt the exercise. Make a change to the exercise. Don't push through the pain in your back.
Yep.
So the next direction, we're gonna do this this exercise in multiple directions. The next direction we're going to do is coming up. We're going to do 20 of these because our hip flexors are usually pretty strong in comparison. Again, if 20 is too many, you can stop early. It's okay. When everybody's done on that, then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of maybe stagger our feet just a little bit so we can bring our leg across. Now, obviously, we don't get as much range of motion on this one because our other leg is in the way, but we just want to get to where, so on this one, if you can get to the end and kind of give a little squeeze and then come back, a little pause to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the last direction is back. Now, back is the most complicated one. First off, because with a prosthesis, your foot your ankle doesn't pick up. So number one is that it's hard. So we have to kind of shift ourselves over a little bit farther on the sound
So you
limb.
could start with your weight on the sound limb ahead of you and then just.
Yeah. It's just that, especially somebody that's transfemoral is not going to have the range of motion at that point. That's already going to be past. So what we don't want to do is create this. It's called lordosis. We don't want to create this rounding of our lower backs. That's starting to use the wrong muscles there. So we really want to try to keep our pelvis forward as much as possible. And then, like, see how much range of motion I'm getting? That's it. That's the whole exercise right there. Anything that we can get to neutral or past neutral is going to be engaging those muscles. And we really want to keep it out of our lower back. We want to keep our lower back as loose as possible while we're doing this. So like Scott was showing, for people that are transtibial, starting back here to get a little bit, that'll work. That'll work. But our transfemorals are really going to have to just shift over onto that other side and work in their active range of motion. So Julie, a little shorter than that. Not quite so far. A little short. Yep, even shorter than that. There. That's it. That's the whole thing. Now you can feel where that muscle is, and when you get to the top, give it a little squeeze. You know, especially these ones that we don't get much range of motion. It's good to give it just a little bit of a squeeze at the top and hold. Now we don't want to over focus on balance on the prosthesis, so we really want to hold on. But I think especially for as much as we just targeted one hip, we really should go through and do those on both sides, even though, I mean, Scott, you're getting both sides now. But everybody else, this is a little bit more balanced exercise, but what we're going to do is we're going to do the same range of motions with our other leg. We'll start with out here. We just want to try to keep things as balanced as possible. And if we start to work one hip, it'll start to kind of twist our pelvis and things can happen. Get our spine out of alignment. That's not fun. If that's your balance, yep. If you
when you're doing your sound,
don't do it if you're already fatigued and it feels like, oh, more of this is going to hurt me tomorrow. Then take a break on it. But if you feel like you can do it, then keep pushing yourself. Yep.
See, a lot of that though is now you're feeling the muscles that you're using to balance, and we've already worked them, but you're identifying kind of like with the stairs that we were talking about.
And then we're gonna go. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go forward now.
We've been joined by
What's
someone
that?
else, Suzanne. I don't know, Suzanne, if you want to turn your camera on, maybe everybody would want to say hello, or
we'll say hello anyway. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne. Thanks for checking us out.
And then we're gonna go across again. Do you guys notice much difference in the hip on one side or the other? Do the muscles feel different based on which side? Tight on both sides. Me too. I don't wear a prosthesis, but same here. And then finally, we're going to do the back.
The nice thing about using the assistive device or the chair to balance yourself is then you're not straining the balance on the leg that's down, and you can focus more on the muscle, group that you're working.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're doing this the whole time and you're not really,
Right. You're still getting some exercise, but it might not be as targeted on the muscles you're looking for, right?
It's a toss up between.
Now, we had a lot of people during the last clinic mention that, walking on inclines is a challenge, especially going up, right? That was a real common theme that we heard from a lot of people. these exercises right here are really good. So the main muscle that we use to go uphill is our glute. So these are really glute focused around our hips. So these are good muscles for walking uphill. And we're going to do a little bit more of that too. But first we're going to do a balance exercise. Then we're going to get to some more uphill type pull throughs are big ones also. Yes, pull throughs are big ones for that because you're kind of focusing on that hamstrings, glutes, the muscles behind your leg.
Yeah, if your extensors are weak, you're going to have difficulty walking up an incline.
So the next one we're going to do is the tall cones here. And we're going to do, about 10 or so of these. I don't know if you want. And you can see. So go ahead.
For the effectiveness of these, we really want to use the assistive device because we're not trying to do this quick. I don't want to see a tap. Okay. If you're not, we want a very controlled. So you might find as you start to lift up at this point, you're really driving your muscles back into the back wall of that socket to kind of hold your balance and to keep your balance. But as you come up, your weight starts to shift to that muscles where you might feel the little toe starting to engage. And then to come forward, okay, you want the middle of that heel to touch that cone. And you're almost reaching out to where that big toe is. So everyone kind of use the assistance, just kind of go up slowly and then come over and down.
So with this exercise, no matter how slow you're going, try to go just even a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Because it's really what it's doing is it's not about this leg that's up in the air at all. It's about that leg that's down on the ground and keeping that balance throughout the whole range.
Do you feel those series of muscles engaging though? Does that make sense the way I explained it? You need here, Abby. Take that. Yeah, you could use all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. You could use that here, Blair. Give me that water bottle.
Right.
What's on my mouth? Is it good?
Good. Do you feel how you can make that shift inside your socket to kind of keep as you're coming from back here to up and then
And you can move that
touch.
cone closer to
Yep.
him, actually. It doesn't have to be that far out. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually a little bit better.
Now try to do that slower, Dave.
Nice, as slow as you can. How slow can you do it? There you
Yeah,
go.
just keep bringing it up, up. Now
Good.
over, and touch like that.
Good.
Do you feel the muscles working harder that way?
This is how you get rid of
So
You were doing a lot from the side before. You just go straight.
yeah, when you first imagine you're just bringing the knee straight up. Just bring it up before you go over.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exaggerated just like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You need a taller cone. Okay. Last exercise. We get to sit down,
Yay.
but it's chair squats. Well, we don't stay seated. So the last exercise that we're going to do is also an exercise that's targeted for going up hills. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we call chair squats. We want to focus on these. This doesn't mean plop down, stand up. That's not what we're doing here. This is an exercise. So part of walking uphill is our posture, and it's getting into a leaning forward posture as we're going and leaning into the hill. So what we want to do is we want to think about that posture with nose over toes. So as far forward as I can lean on the way down, and then slow myself down to the chair. And then if we can get up in the same position, lean forward, 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 nose over our toes, and then up. If that's hard for anybody, I want people to, yeah, right. I want people to put hands on their thighs here so that we can still get that same forward lean on the way down, and then on the way up, push. So everybody go ahead and try maybe 3 or 4 of those where let's try 5 of them for everybody. But it's a real slow, if our volunteers can kind of go around and kind of help. Yep, if anybody who can. But what we really want to think about is that forward lean first. The first thing that we want, we want to. Yep, like you're leaning, yeah, like a gorilla. So get yourself into that gorilla. Now lower yourself down to the chair. That's it, Dave. The more you get out, the easier it is to stand up. Absolutely. Yep, and the same with sitting down. Well, she may have had an influence on this. No, I'm kidding. Is there anybody that's having trouble with this? Because we have an adaptation. So for those of us that doing this exercise is too hard, there's 2 adaptations for at home. Our number 1 adaptation for at home for this, if it's too hard to do this exercise, is to sit at our sink. Put our hands on the counter at the sink so we have something to hold on to so we can still do the same exercise. And then we can use the sink to help ourselves up. So at the sink. So that
got a little something to grab.
So having a little something to grab, sinks are usually anchored pretty well, so that's why I recommend it. But that way you can support yourself on the way down, and then you can use it just for that little moment that you keep, so you get some momentum. Another thing that you can do is do them shorter. Put a pillow on the chair. Do something to raise the chair up so you're not going quite so far deep. A 3/4 squat, a 1/4 squat is better than not doing anything at all. Doing this right here is better than not doing anything. Getting lower, that's better. The lower we can go, the better. But the idea is we got to start somewhere,
Another
right?
thing that might be helpful, if you're sitting here and you're trying to do a squat, you see how you get the heels up and everything? The below the knee amputees in particular kind of demonstrate this with me. Everyone kind of stand up. So now as you go down to sit, turn your feet out a little bit. See how I'm doing this here? Now try to go into that seated position, and you should find less pressure in the prosthetic socket. That feel easier? Please don't use a stool chair with wheels or anything.
Unless you're doing this adaptation, which you want to go show, and we're going to show the stool scoots.
Okay.
So again, if you're doing these at the sink, you've done these for a while, you're like, okay, what else can I do? What's another exercise? Here, another exercise to kind of prepare
you're just not strong enough
this.
to do a squat, or you know what? If you're strong enough to do squats, these are still good exercises. Yes. We call these stool scoots. So if you have like an office chair or anything with wheels, if you notice that if I'm pushing back like this, you're still using those extensors. And this is a good exercise. So you can just go from one end of the room like this.
So when you push, you're working your quadriceps, which are another big important muscle for kind of propelling ourselves upward.
This isn't quite the same thing, but going forward and back here, this is actually, you're really having to pull on the back wall of that socket. This can get pretty fatiguing pretty quick. So if you were to go forward one way and then go backward the other way, feel free to do that as well. You could do that. Wheelchair.
Actually, Chris, can we have you come and demonstrate? So we had the question, can someone with a transfemoral prosthesis do this?
And Chris brought up a good point. He said it's going to vary per the
I was
type
saying,
of knee that
there
you
may
have,
be some people that with the type of knee component you have, you may not be able to.
but he will demonstrate someone with an above the knee.
So the forward, obviously, he can't get the prosthesis to pull for him. But then backwards, he's able to push down with his leg once he waits for the knee to bend.
So he's got a microprocessor knee. That's why that knee is not coming back as quick. Yeah. Well, you want me to adjust it? Well, it should go down all the way.
So
there you go.
What Chris was saying was that before the stool is a little too high. So as you can see, he's sitting with his knees at about 90 degrees there, which is the position that you want him to be in to do this.
You could just turn around and go back all the way across the room. Yeah, there you go. So none of these are about speed. Like he's still getting effectiveness of the, and he can't bend as quickly, but he's waiting for that knee to come down and still working the muscles.
So, and especially with the squats, when we're doing these for strength, slow and controlled is better. 1, 2, 3, touch. 1, 2, 3, touch. With the chair, if chair squats are too easy for anybody, if it's like, well, that's not too hard, then try doing it without the chair. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, and then just stop. 1, 2, 3, come back up. So those are exercises that are going to be really important for later on when we start to walk up a hill, because what we have to do is we have to be able to, with the prosthesis, can you show like planting into the toe and driving up? So
as you can see, I'm really trying to, I'm
have
on
a
level
hill.
ground, but notice what I'm doing, I'm keeping my weight more on the toes. So I'm bending the knees more. So I'm just kind of pushing into that. Okay. Do we have a band
I
you
was
can use
grabbing
for
it.
resistance?
That's what I was just about to do. I went the wrong direction. I got one right here.
So with the resistance band, I can even lean further forward. So you see that? So I don't have an ankle, so I'm landing with my knee in flexion. Okay, so if the knee's in flexion, I get on the toes of the prosthesis, and then I can drive that back. See how I'm driving back as we go, but I'm making sure that as I land, my knee is flexed and I'm on the toe.
Do you notice that he's not getting a heel strike in this position? One thing that's going to be really overly challenging is on those slopes. If you extend out and put that heel down, you're at a real mechanical disadvantage to try now to
maybe
get
you can use
yourself
the-
and propel yourself all the way through.
So we don't have ankles. Below the knee, above the knee. Neither one of us have ankles. So when you kind of get to that point where you're on the heel and you're going up an incline, all we have is the heel, and all we can do is drive forward at that point. You can use the resistance band, maybe kind of get me. If I land on my toe, I still have room this way to drive that ankle down. I can use the muscles by going back here. Are the pull throughs a lot harder than the heel strikes? They're very hard. So essentially what you're doing is a pull through up an incline. We would try to avoid that at any cost, correct? That's why this adaptation, because it's a lot easier to do this. Something's got to give somewhere because we don't have an ankle. So by landing on your toe, you can create it so that you can drive that back as opposed to this uphill. I don't care how long you've been wearing a prosthesis, that's going to be pretty tough.
Right.
That's a good,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a situation where you're faced with an incline and it's intimidating, you can always go sideways too. I mean, you can go, the idea here is to teach you how to navigate on your own, but we were talking earlier about firsts. I think, Scott, you were talking about that. That first time you get faced with a really steep hill, we don't want to be barrel rolling down it. So if if it's too steep or something and you find that it's intimidating, you could go up, And if you're, say, above the knee or transfemoral, we don't want that knee to buckle, maybe leading with your sound limb and using the prosthesis to go that way.
For stairs over the handicap ramp at an entrance. I will take the stairs.
So the consensus here is that people prefer stairs
To inclines.
to inclines. Stairs are easier to navigate than an incline because the ground's flat that you're pushing into, right?
Work each step,
Okay,
you know.
right. Like each step might be a little bit more work, but overall, because your foot is able to be flat on the ground, you feel more stable, more secure. Is that a good? It's a balance thing, like because your foot's flat.
The incline, or when you're going up the hill, you're leaning into it. So you're already off balance. So if you go off balance from that position, it's harder to recover than it is from being already straight up where you put a leg out one way or an arm.
Right.
That's why they're.
Yep, that makes sense. Right.
So we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
This is our interactive part, I guess. I know Suzanne, who joined us a little while ago, Brianna, if she has a question or anything that she wants to ask or share with the group, we'd be happy to ask her to join us. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. So Suzanne,
Okay.
if you don't want to have anything to say, that's fine, but the volume is up. So if you have a question or anything that you'd like to interject, or we could answer any questions for you, please feel free to ask. We should be able to hear you, Brianna, saying your mic is on. So.
Somebody said Birch Run and was just getting started. I was gonna say that Star Rehab is a great place to go for rehab.
So
Suzanne, the same Suzanne I was messaging with this morning is actually from Australia, and it would be about 9 in the morning there. Today's Thursday there.
So anybody have any questions or anything they want us to recap that we might have discussed today, or positives, negatives, things that we liked about it, things we didn't like about it?
feel like it was as good of a session as we had last time. The people that are back, I think it was better. Oh, I like that. Basically, this is more strenuous. Yeah.
Well, we did a lot of what we did the first time and this, so I guess,
Right.
because by the second half, I know my muscles were definitely.
This is probably about as strenuous as we are going to let the program get. I mean, we'll be varying the exercise some, but this is about the intensity level because it's a lot.
Well, there's the part where we're going to get Casey to do another triathlon, but that's.
Oh, we weren't supposed to say that out loud yet.
That'll be a little bit more strenuous. Yeah.
Right.
Well, everyone who joined us, yes.
I'll start. Because I'm shy, right? So I'm Nate, and I mean I love this program, and I love being here to help everybody out. And this summer I hope to climb Mount Rainier. Yeah.
I'm Scott. I'm an amputee. I love this program as well. I'm looking to do another triathlon this summer, either in Ludington or Traverse City, because I want to do a swim in Lake Michigan, which should be a challenge more than an inland lake swim. So that's.
No.
Ben.
Oh, yeah.
My name's Ben. I am a let blower in the amputee, but my plan for this summer, I want to ride the bicycle trip down to North Manchester, Indiana that I lost my leg on.
Yeah.
I haven't been on a bicycle since my accident.
Yeah.
And it's my goal to finally get back up on one.
Ben was hit by a truck
I
while
was
riding
ran
his
over
bike.
by a semi while riding a bicycle.
That's why that's a big deal. So.
My name's Casey. I'm an amputee for 10 years, and this summer I hope to go watch Scott run a triathlon and not be in one.
And not be in one. That would.
And I'll be very successful at it.
This is all new to me, but I'm going to work as hard as I can to get like the rest of you guys.
All right.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to talk about a goal? Anybody else have a goal or want to Yeah. It doesn't have to be something, it doesn't have to be a lofty goal, but anyway, well, thanks everybody for coming. I think we had a good, yeah.
I'd just like to thank everybody for helping me get through my birthday. I really appreciated it, and it's good.
Well,
It's
happy
just good.
birthday. Yeah.
Happy
Thanks for
birthday.
spending it with us. That's great. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right, we'll be back in April, second Wednesday. What's the
Yep.
date, Brianna, of the next one? 13th. Wednesday, April 13th.
Yep.
We'll see everybody then.
All right.
All right. All right. All right, sweet.
All right. Thanks a lot.